So this total overhaul alternate history mod has taken off quite a bit over the past couple of weeks, and if you scrolled through the workshop, you've probably seen it. It's called Gods and Kings, and its scope is pretty nuts. It changes essentially the entire vanilla map in 1444 with hundreds of new provinces and new nations. I have a bit of a soft spot for alt history EU4 mods, considering I've spent the last 6 months balls deep in my own that I've been working on post-Phenum, and with Antebellum being one of my favorite EU4 mods of all time. So let's check out Gods and Kings and see how it plays out. There's a ton of scripted content early, including wars, subjugations, unions, etc., so it should be pretty fun to watch. Not a sponsor, but I've spent the last 6 months or so working very hard on an alternate history mod for EU4 called Post-Phenum. It's going to be released on January 19th. I'm very excited for it, and if you want more information, join the Discord linked in the description. So yeah, right off the bat, things are going to look very different. Very different colors for a lot of nations is what the first thing I notice, aside from, you know, the tons and tons of new tags. There's a couple of, you know, familiar ones, a couple of, you know, not so familiar ones. Free Burgundy is one. The HRE is very different, and Poskogorum, apparently. Now, of course, there's only one way to really find out how all of this works out, and that's to turn the game on up to speed 5 and unpause. And I'm not sure if this is there on start or if this just happened, but we have the war of the two brothers going on between Castile and basically everyone else over here in Iberia. Not looking so good for them, but it is a PU war, so we'll probably see, you know, Castile still existing. This is kind of crazy. We have a fully fleshed out all the way up to tier 5 blue horde with quite the vassal swarm. Definitely something to see. And out in the steppes of Central Asia, we have the White Horde Succession Crisis, which is an independence war. So we'll see how things go with that. So far, 50-50, but anybody's game. Okay, no, I'm tripping. These are actually, they're tributaries. I was going to say that would be kind of crazy. But one of their tributaries, or at least former tributaries here, is Bulgaria, who is declaring independence by the looks of it. They are at war, and they are probably going to get destroyed, if I had to guess. Interesting to see Hockmeister Hans up here in the Teutonic Order in Finland. Pretty cool to see. It is definitely kind of the frontier of the Catholic world, so makes sense, I suppose. And much like Antebellum, the schools are actually applied to a Christian faith, this time Catholic, not Protestant like in Antebellum. So that definitely adds a little bit of an extra dynamic to the Catholic game. While the papacy, of course, is still the papacy with all of the Catholic nations being involved in that. But we also have religious schools for Orthodox as well. So definitely just a lot more going on the religious map mode. A lot more. Also worth mentioning, there is no Empire of China that I'm aware of, but 2 of the Chinese tags are the #1 and #2 great power respectively, with Song and Han, and then this Ilkhanate tag over here is the #3. Poland, the Emperor of the Holy Roman Empire, is in the 4th, with Egypt in the 5th, Blue Horde in the 6th, Japan, a united Japan, in the 7th, and Thompson in the 8th, actually. So we'll see how that goes. So it looks like the Serbs are actually a personal union under Styria, being supported for their independence by Austria. But it doesn't look like it actually matters a whole lot, because we've got some pretender rebels, and they're doing a bit of pretender rebelling. And in general, there's just a lot of war going on, tons of occupation lines all over the place. There's just so many tags, and they're just very much crammed into a very small area. They're going to be going to war, especially if they're outside of the HRE, like over here in France. Very decentralized, a lot of tags that want to kind of unite their culture group, because the AI does like to do that. If you saw my previous video, you would know that. So, yeah, I think we're going to see some nations consolidating. Oh, yo, and I actually didn't even realize it. This is a breakaway state, so there's like a civil war going on in Hungary at the moment. So Hungary's here, and not looking too good. Bulgaria, full annexed by the Blue Horde. So Blue Horde looking pretty big. So I said Castile would be around, and, you know, technically correct. They are a 1-province minor, and they got split. But it's actually Navarra giving like a big hug to Aragon is kind of the one over here that's surprising me. Leon looking good, of course, and Cortuba eating up some of the boys over here. So it looks like, you know, a Reconquista may be on the table. Up in the Isles, I don't think a whole lot has really changed. England looks similar, I think. Maybe a couple of uniting of the Isles over here, this Sil Iron, and then whatever this one is. But nothing major just yet. Hungary reforming, only, you know, burgundy color, with Bohemia taking a chunk out of Slovakia. So turns out that Czechoslovakia will be a thing, at least for now. The Emperor of Poland eating up some land over here because, you know, Deus Vult and all that. Gotta get rid of these Baltic peoples. Though I am curious if Kurland is going to do some colonization. That would be pretty cool. And we have a Reformation on our hands about 1507. The Age of Reformation has begun. Protestantism over here, as well as very much so in the north, with Reform kind of speckled throughout, notably over in Scotland with their good old Presbyterian boys. We do also have the Church of England being founded in this timeline as well by England. So far everything is tracking. And it does look like a lot of the smaller heresies have been wiped out, including these Bomgumalist or whatever over here in Serbia. So yeah, it's very much very consistent with what you would kind of expect from vanilla so far. Though those Muslims over in Iberia, they may end up being a problem for them. Like, look at this absolute unit of Tlemcen. In vanilla, they just get dominated. So I'm actually really here for this. I like this. We do also have what I assume is a Crusader state of Africa over here, and they're doing some conquering. Not any conversions just yet, but some conquering. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 provinces, 10 including Malta, in Sicily alone. So yeah, I think they've added a couple of provinces to this map. And despite there being no Byzantines, the Ottomans are inevitable, and Constantinople has fallen. Meanwhile, the Teutonic Order be Teutonic ordering, and they are converting the Finnic people, giving them a nice hug over here in Finland. So we're probably not going to see much more Finnic from this point forward. Meanwhile, Kalka over here and the White Horde looking very big and very formidable. And I want to say that some of the Indian nations are starting to blob at least a little bit. Definitely seeing some power bases being established. And we do have our first colonizer, Mali. Actually, nobody from Europe, but instead an African over here in Brazil. Very nice. We do also have Bermuda being colonized by Cortuba. So that is another thing. Egypt continues to push, and these guys are just dead. Completely collapsed into a bunch of little releasables. So rip them. Okay, so things have heated up just a little bit. We have the War of the Protestant League going on at the moment, 1567. So it's been going on for 3 years. And the casualties are mind-boggling. Almost 1 million men with an M have died. Why? I don't know. Also, why most of them are not of either of the religions going on in the empire, I also do not know. We've got the Blue Horde and Britain as the primary guys helping out against the Emperor of Poland. And it's pretty dang messy. Poland is winning. It's like 30% war score right now. And after 3 years, that's kind of a good kind of feel for what's going to happen. But dang, this is really, really a lot of land to be traveling for a lot of these armies. So a lot of attrition because the AI, big dumb. And honestly, the religious map mode in Europe, at least, is pretty consistent with what you would come to expect. Protestant in the north, as well as over here. Reformed probably doing a bit better than what I'm used to seeing. Anglican, of course, over here with Reformed over here. And yeah, of course, Britain has formed, Great Britain, Britain, whatever, and has pushed the Scots out of Scotland. Now, this is semi-new. This happened kind of recently, as has France kind of started dominating the French area. The Ottomans, not really doing a whole lot, but it does look like they're beating up on rum right now. So we'll see what goes on with those, with the Turks. And then over here in Cortuba, they are continuing to dominate, pushing up well into Aragon, touching the Pyrenees Mountains. So these guys are definitely going to be a problem for the guys in the north. Meanwhile, Han over here, very big, very beefy, ate up a lot of this Kalka horde that was over here. And Song still holding it down. Also over in Japan, we have Nita, or whatever that would be. So a formidable for Japan, I suppose. And a Rajputana with a Devagiri over here, the major guys. Bengal looking good, but this Rajputana is definitely... probably, well, maybe no. This guy is definitely the big one, but Rajputana definitely going to be able to compete at least. Over in Iran, it is still very much a mess. Egypt holding it down, but again, not really sure what's going to pop out of this area. The religious disunity makes it pretty hard for people to make a lot of friends, so I think it's kind of a free-for-all for the most part. Kind of like down here. What a mess. West Africa continues to be a mess with like one province miners dotting the entire landscape, and then Mali and Brazil doing pretty good so far. Though I do always love to see Dahomies thriving over here in West Africa. If you guys don't know, Dahomies are the people who support this channel like absolute giga chads by clicking that join button below the video. If you do become one of Dahomies, you get early access to all the videos on this channel, as well as exclusive roles and chats in the Discord. So if that appeals to you, check the join button. Mali is also down here colonizing Argentina. And then up in the north, we've got a little bit of variety. We have the British West Indies, Cuba, which is Cortuba. We also have Leonese, as well as over here, we've got some French. No, it is not French. It's actually Tlemcen colonizing the Yucatan Peninsula. Look at that. That's good. I like that. Up in the north, it is the Swedes who are settling down over here. It makes a lot of sense. And then again, we've got a new contender, not Cortuba this time, but Ireland, an Irish miner colonizing. And so a little over 100 years into the game, Britain is actually the #1 great power, if you can believe that, with France following them, Poland neck and neck with France for the #2 spot, Tver in the 4th spot, as well as the Blue Horde neck and neck with them for the 4th spot. Rajputana, once they embrace institution, will actually be #2, which is really cool to see. Tlemcen in the 7th, and then Mali, and they're small, but still there, colonial empire in the 8th. And another 100 years later, things remarkably looking not as different as I would expect, though there are some notable changes. Britain is united. France is more united. Cortuba, I want to say, is roughly the same, but the Ottomans are definitely coming along, snaking their way along the coast of the Black Sea and down into southern Greece. Also, Africa, much bigger than it used to be, at least, you know, has a bigger name. And meanwhile, a lot of the land down here is getting colonized because a lot of this is all colonizable. Not a lot, all of it. It's all colonizable. So that's pretty cool. I saw Sicily here and I thought that it might be like antebellum Sicily, where it's like Shia Islam, but it's not. Yeah, they're Catholics. And the religious map has maybe cleaned up a little bit, compartmentalized a couple more areas, but for the most part, it's a very reformed HRE, which is not so good for the empire, considering the fact that Catholic is the official faith, and there are 68 heretic princes. So he ain't passing any more reforms. Meanwhile, the blobbing out in the east continues, with Rajputana definitely pulling through. These guys not doing well, but Mysore, resurgent nation down here. But Bengal, you can never count Bengal out in a Chewbert vid. It also doesn't look like you can count out Han, who is very big. Granted, a lot of these provinces are also very big, but tons of development over here in northern China. Though it looks like he may have lost a little bit to Song. Could be wrong. Down under, we've got Leonese Australia, so that's pretty cool. And to finally settle the debate, the Falklands is a Leonese colony, with apparently Mali, just checking it out. Aside from that, we have the Bretons and the Malians down here in the south, some Cordobans, as well as the Leonese and the Tlemceni over here. Same guys doing the thing in the Caribbean, an absolute mess, with Leon, I think, late to the party, but they do have a bit of land. Mexico also getting split up, so it's really cool to see a competitive New World. Not something you see in vanilla very often. Normally it's basically just like Portugal, Spain, maybe England, and that's it. I'm a big fan of this. I think that this is a great way to add some variety. And I feel like a jerk because I'm over here talking about United Nations and I don't even mention Sweden. I mean, they united Scandinavia under Sweden for the most part, so very nice. With about 175 years left, Egypt has actually taken the #1 spot, which is kind of surprising to me, surpassing Britain, mostly just because a lot of their development is tied up in colonies. Rajputana in the 3rd spot, very nice to see, and Song in the top spot, not Han, though I think it's probably because Han hasn't embraced institution. Cortuba in the 5th, with France in the 6th, Mali, colonial Mali in the 7th, and then Poland, the Emperor, with just under 1,000 development in the 8th spot. Oh, now we're talking. Couple 100 years late to the party, but we indeed have a big, scary auto blob. And then for some reason, Cephalonia and Albania, splitting them down the middle. Okay, man, you know, I won't even acknowledge it much past that. We do have rum, a bunch of, you know, split up parts here, but, you know, the Ottomans are here, and they are they're terrifying as they are in vanilla. Sicily continues to dominate Italy, as well as over into Illyria, whatever this region would be called. And Venice is here doing quite well themselves, though I'm not sure how I feel about red Venice. Orange Venice and Antebellum was one thing. Red Venice? I don't know. Somehow Leon continues to hold back the green tide, and France is even more united, but still, it's been like 75 years since we last checked, and they're not really doing a whole lot. Britain is doing their thing, doing a lot of colonization, and the HRE is still incredibly disunited, actually, with Poland doing very good. Somehow, somewhere, the Blue Horde just collapsed. They were pretty dang big at one point, and whatever this is, East Asia looks almost exactly the same as it did last time we looked, except for this, whatever this is, this perm finger sticking into the Han. Don't ask me. India actually looks quite similar as well. I imagine there's a very big hug box in the area. Australia and New Zealand are finished with colonization, as is South America, and sadly it looks like Cordoba most got kicked out. Clemson not doing much either. North America, very Vinland. Yes, very, very Vinland. The left coast is definitely a mixed bag with a bunch of different nations. Tlemcen, Britain, Cordoba, and then I think we also had a little bit of Nita over here, which is Japan. So yeah, definitely some variety. It is pretty cool seeing the religious map mode over in the east as well. Obviously, a lot of them are just like heresies of each other. Like it's kind of the same as it would be in vanilla. They're just heresies of each other. But how about that Sikh nation? A big Sikh blob over here. This is a sex worker, or, you know, I don't want to offend anybody. So yeah, but a big Sikh nation over here. Very cool. And thanks to colonization, Mali has shot up into the #1 slot, passing Egypt, who was previously #1, not by a whole lot, but they're there. Britain actually lagging behind a bit, but Song just behind them. Rajputana was like #3 before, so they've slid just a bit. Cordoba and their colonial stuff falling off because, you know, they don't really have that much left. They've lost a lot of it. The Ottomans in the 7th spot doing very good. Can't believe they've actually risen. And then Poland remaining in the Great Powers list, but just barely. West Africa being filled in day 1 by like the native African tribes is definitely bad for the colonizers. It's not looking good. Somehow Tripolitania got down here. Okay. Well, we ended up having a bit of a reconquest, and then the other boys from the south decided to split Cordoba. Don't worry, they're still here, one province, but probably not for long. 2 Sicilies formed, which is kind of cool. Not really sure why. They feel the need to change every color of every single nation in the game. I think Great Britain might be the same, but I kind of like the gray of 2 Sicilies. But either way, good borders. For an AI, at least, I'm definitely happy with this. Sardinia actually made their way up as well, and we have almost a Sardinian Piedmont. Almost. Ottomans did finish pretty strong, but definitely going to be in the shadow of a very strong Egypt. And somehow the sex worker over here just like popped off, took a bunch of land over in the Gulf of Aden, or whatever this region is in Arabia, and then pushed up into Perm, who somehow blobbed out into the hordes, as well as all the way over looking into Tibet, though Rajputana to the south. Very scary. Song ended up definitely coming out as the primary Chinese nation, with this Songyong or whatever over here in Manchuria, looking pretty good. The pagans pushed down into Indochina from Burma, looking very respectable in the end. And Malayu or whatever is the primary guy over here, though it's mostly on this island. Though when considering most development in Egypt, Mali is certainly up for contention with all of this. Very respectable Malian Central Africa, apparently, as well as the majority of South America, though I guess Vinland decided that they wanted it on the action as well, but who knows for how long. Very happy to see that Cape Horn is still under the control of Brittany, and Las Malvinas still under the control of Leon. Meanwhile, the West Indies and the West Coast in general, mostly going to Britain with some Tlemceni stuff, but for the most part, it's definitely Britain, who finishes in a very respectable 5th place, as well as the naval hegemon. So pretty solid to see Mali actually coming out on top over Egypt. So I told you they had some development, as well as economic hegemon of the world. So that's a thing. Then we have Egypt, like I said. Song, 3,000 development over in China. Very cool. Ottomans blobbing out into the 4th spot from a very small, mostly no-name nation. I assume that they have content. I'm not 100% sure. And then Rajputana in the 6th. 2 Sicilies climbing up into that 7th spot, and Tver, a Russian nation, in the 8th. Orthodox going pretty strong over here. Sikh going incredibly strong over here, which is awesome to see. And then it's mostly Muslim here, though the Crusaders of Africa still hanging on there. Catholic in the middle portions, mostly Reformed in Germany, with some Protestant over in the lowlands, as well as in Czechia and up in Scandinavia, like I said before. And of course, Anglican British Isles. New World, a bit of split as well, Catholic and Anglican, with some Protestant stuff that's in the process of being converted. Very funny to see, you know, a colonial nation of a Protestant nation being Catholic. I always think that's funny. Meanwhile, South America, Sunni, because Mali, you know, you expect it. Culturally, I don't really know how much stuff has changed. It does look like Turkish is in with the Greek group. So that's a thing. Meanwhile, the Egyptians pushed their culture a little bit going on down here in the Horn of Africa, as well as whatever this area is, Nubia or whatever. Sudan. Looks like a little bit of Polish colonization of sorts was going on. And the New World is definitely a mixed bag, though we have Irish, which is very cool to see. Normally they're like, you know, New York City. I think New York is Irish and Italian, but still pretty cool. Lots of Swedes. And then, of course, American culture, though American culture is mostly over here in Mexico, but, you know, we'll take what we can get. The French and the Quebecois up here in Canada, and Mexican, Andalusian, and Platinian down here in South America, but clearly Mali dominating the game. Definitely a super cool mod. I'm a big fan. If you guys would like to see some gameplay of it, make sure you leave a comment down below and let me know. I'm also been working on my Alt History mod post-Phenom. I would think it probably would have been mentioned in the beginning, but if you want to check that out, the Discord is going to be linked in the description. I really appreciate all that. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure you leave a like on it, subscribe for more, and I appreciate you making it to the end of the video. Hope that you have an absolutely fantastic day.
Special thanks to Kaiser Dar of Acadia, Sheol, Gammas23, Ian Powell, Cannon Fodder, Josh Kopczynski, Agent Rhino, Blonde Damon, Isaiah, Rover, Bubba J, Saronska, Ricardo, Cobalt, Rex, Nathan Albright, and many more.